Hospital porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV for a third in this series of emergency broadcasts about the reported murder on the streets of Woolwich on Wednesday of drummer Lee Rigby, a serving soldier in the British Army. It is Sunday the 25th of May 2013, and I'm just going to give you the latest details in this, because this series of videos has now turned into a trilogy. I'm still getting a lot of rude messages. I'm still getting Facebook friends dumping me, but as I said, I'm not making her Panwo TV for the objective of winning a popularity contest. I'm doing it to tell the truth, what I believe is the truth, or what could be the truth, and to prevent a civil war breaking out in Great Britain. Right, I was saying yesterday, that more evidence would come to light, and I was also explaining how, when one of these events happens, the first initial news reports that come out, the ones that are there, which basically broadcast as it happens or just after it happens, are the important ones. The reason is because if there is some kind of cover story, it often doesn't always slip into place straight away. A good example is 9/11. A lot of people went out and recorded the news on 9/11, which is very, very good, because it was only after that. If that news hadn't been recorded, we would have no proof that the BBC had indeed announced that Building 7 had collapsed before it actually did. Because they recorded it, we had that evidence, and we knew that there was something dodgy going on. The same goes here, and this story from the BBC is very interesting. In fact, I'm surprised they haven't taken it down yet. This is an interview with a friend of Michael Adebolajo, the prime suspect in this case. His name is Abu Nusayba. He's a friend of his. He came into the BBC, did an 11-minute interview, which is recorded here. You can watch it here at www.bbc.co.uk and hyphen 22664468. I'll put a link in the description box. He does this little interview here. Now, what's interesting is he says that that Michael Adebolajo, or someone like him, or one of the two men arrested, had been approached by MI5 and they offered him a job. This is very, very unusual indeed, because this is not, intelligence services don't really just offer people jobs. This guy doesn't actually explain it, and the news reports don't explain it. They can get no confirmation from Whitehall sources. Well, they're hardly going to admit to it, are they? But MI5 don't go up to you and they say, "Hey mate, do you want a job?" Now, they don't do things like that. What they do is they're much more crafty. They'll send someone in who will pretend to be your friend, pretend to be interested in the organisation. It may be, if it's a bloke they're after, they may send in some leggy blonde girl, to seduce you, things like that. If you read a spy book, any kind of spy book, by a spy author like, Robert Harris or Ian Fleming or any of these other spy authors, you get a pretty good idea, because a lot of these books are written by former secret agents. A lot of what goes on in these books is actually how they do it. So how did this guy know that? How did this guy know that Michael Adebolajo had been or the other suspect, someone had attempted to recruit him to MI5? And secondly, why didn't the BBC let him explain? If that was the case, or why didn't he explain? I'm interested to know whether the person. What I'm saying is that the person who recruited Adebolajo, or his co-suspect, to the security services, or attempted to recruit them, might have been Anjem Choudhury. And maybe this is why the BBC are being a bit cagey about it. As I've said twice now, Anjem Choudhury is almost certainly an MI6 agent. He is provably a former MI6 agent. As I said, he sometimes, you can see he wears a false beard. I believe he wears a false beard when he's on camera. And he has this organisation, Al Mahajaroon, which goes by several other names. It had a website when it was once called Islam for UK, and it had a website that was hosted by the Spanish Ministry of Defence. What on earth is the Spanish Ministry of Defence doing hosting a website of Islamist extremists? Ask yourself that question. Another thing that's very interesting is this guy was talking about how Adebayor's character had changed very suddenly, and he became what he is today, the kind of man who would carry out some kind of murder. And that's even more interesting. Now, I'm gaining more of a kind of grip on this case as time goes on. As I said, I'm making videos and I'm talking about things I wouldn't normally talk about so quickly, and you know, I'm voicing a lot of my initial speculations rather than putting it on the back burner and waiting until I've got more information. I've got more information now thanks to this, and I'll keep you posted with any more that comes my way. I'm now less inclined to believe that drummer Lee Rigby is literally Ogilvy. In other words, you know, it's becoming more and more likely that he actually does exist and he is a real person, and therefore, as I repeat before, deepest condolences to his loved ones, and rest in peace. So I'm more inclined he does exist now, although I can't eliminate the fact that he is the possibility that he's still an Ogilvy. What I do maintain, though, is he may not have died in a way that the media is telling us he did, as I explained yesterday, in which case I hope we do uncover what really happened to him, because I think he deserves justice and his family deserves justice. As for this guy, Abu Nusayba, this friend of who's being interviewed on this BBC show, he describes how Adebayor took a trip to Kenya. And that's when, as I explained, this guy says that he was a very, very nice kid. He grew up in a Christian family, not a Muslim one, and he was a very, very nice young man. And he changed very suddenly. That's what this guy is telling us. What happened was Adebayor took a trip to Kenya, and at this point I was expecting him to say something like he fell in with some bad people in Kenya, an outlaw Islamist group recruited him. No, that's not what this guy is saying. What he said was that Adebayor was arrested by government forces in Kenya, and he was subjected to horrific torture, which included sexual abuse, and sexual abuse against a man can be as damaging as it is against a woman, and it's an effective way of creating trauma-based mind control. Very often it's in secret government programs. It's done to small children. It's horrible to even think about this. The Kenyan government has a long history of being complicit in various secret operations involving mind control and other forms of corruption. Kenya supposedly became independent from the British Empire, and as always happens, the British Empire's never really ended. All that happens is the British officially remove their imperial powers, and they leave a stay behind government in power. Robert Mugabe is one of them. The US presidents are all part of this. Almost anywhere you go in the former British Empire, you find this. In fact, there was it was many years ago now. It was about 20 odd years ago now. There was a horrific situation in which a British tourist, a young woman travelling alone, got murdered, and her body was set alight and burnt. The coroner concluded that it was a case that she was attacked by wild animals. Or why on earth animals would use petrol to burn a body, I don't know. Obviously, there was a lot of corruption. Her father has led a campaign to try and get justice for this woman. And I'll just find out her name, actually. I'm just curious. I should look this up beforehand. But her father wrote a book called The Animals Are Innocent. The Animals Are Innocent. Yep, it's a book by a man called it's about a woman called Julie. Her name is Julie Ward, She was murdered in Kenya in 1988 while on safari. John Ward, her father, tried to persuade the Kenyan authorities to recognise that her daughter was murdered. So it's obviously for a lot of corruption. But what's very, very interesting is that when she was last seen alive, she was in a cafe, drinking, and the man she was sitting opposite a man, and sorry to be a bit phasic. I want to give you the details of this case. Yeah, she was a wildlife photographer who was who was killed. She was murdered, and the man believes she was kidnapped and murdered by somebody. Yeah, and what's happened was when she was last seen alive, she was in a cafe, and she was sitting opposite a man. Well, this man wasn't just anyone; he was the son of the president. And what looks like it happened, that's the son of the president was in some way involved with her murder, and because he's the son of the president, basically the Kenyans authorities covered it up. Anyway, back to Michael Adebolajo. He was subjected to horrific torture, including sexual abuse, in the hands of the Kenyan government. He got back to Britain, and he was a changed man. He basically became what he is today, a person capable of maybe working for the secret services as a mind-controlled assassin or agent or sleeper, and maybe whatever happened on that street in Woolwich, because something horrific happened that day, he was somehow involved. Whether he really did kill somebody, or whether it was all staged, something horrific happened that day. Whether it was Lee Rigby he killed or somebody else, I don't know. But we have the involvement of MI5 now. The involvement of intelligence agencies. And interestingly enough, Abu Nusayba, the moment he concluded this interview, the moment he stepped outside the BBC, he was arrested. As far as I know, he's still in custody. Well, that's all. I will make another video. This is now a trilogy of videos to do with this horrific case last Wednesday. I will continue to make more if it is necessary. Keep you posted with this initial evidence, as I said, is very important. And let's hope we get the bottom of this, eh? Let's hope we expose this if it is a fake, which it's likely to be. Thank you for watching Panmo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order.